As a country, Malawi is facing quite a lot of challenges. As we're talking, food security is an issue because the rains are not coming as expected. We have got lakes drying up. In the process, people's livelihoods have been affected because they can't fish the way they used to fish because of the reduction in the water levels. The extreme temperatures, we're actually getting quite warmer sometimes and getting much cooler in the cold season. So these are the effects that have on the people. And actually, as you know, Malawi is a very poor country. Now we are just adding more burden to the already burdened person. We're actually just adding more problems because this, for example, women can't have food security. Water now, they have to draw water very far away because a lot of wells have dried up. And all this is affecting, especially and particularly, the poor, vulnerable woman in my country.
I mean, it's something we've heard about a fair amount at this conference, about the burden, the excessive burden that climate change can have on women, especially rural women. So you're noticing that, are you? I mean, it's in relation to gathering water, child rearing, that kind of thing?
Definitely, that we're definitely seeing more of it happening every day. As I'm talking, this time around, Malawi, we have got food shortages in some households just because last year the rains did not come as expected. Instead of us having an average of between 900 and 1,000 milliliters, we had much less than that. We had a lot of dry spells in some areas. In the process, a lot of people have not harvested as expected, and yet government made a deliberate effort and policy of giving out free fertilizer subsidy program. That was an initiative and a policy that government was putting across so that it helps its people to be food secure. But even with that intervention, it has not helped because as much as they got the fertilizer, there were not enough rains. In the process, we've got families starving because just not good enough rains.
So handing out fertilizer is one thing the government can do. What else is the Malawian government able to do by itself without outside help for now?
Well, as a government, there are so many other interventions. For example, in the area that I was talking about, where the lake is drying up because of the water that is not enough because of the reduction in the rainfall. The couple of years, it means government needs to start having programs, for example, social programs of having some kind of economic empowerment to these people because they were relying on fishing. And now that fish is not there because the water is drying up. Government is coming up with small programs to actually enhance them, to actually help them adapt to the situation. And on the other extreme, I've talked about droughts and dryness. We do have another extreme where in other areas we're having a lot of floodings, like in the southern part of the country and right at the end in the northern part of the country, we're having flooding. And in the process, it means government is having to get quite a number of resources to make sure these people are housed because their houses have been washed away. We have got schools that are washed away. In the process, government is taking some resource to make sure they actually rehabilitate, they actually make sure these people are housed after the floodings happen in our country.
I mean, we've heard from other countries in Africa how Africa in general, many countries in Africa, suffer an excessive burden from the results of climate change, yet didn't in general cause the problem. What is the voice coming out of Africa in general, and what is it you expect in Malawi and Africa from the developed nations to try to help rectify this problem, to help Malawi deal with the results of climate change?
Exactly, you're very right. Africa as a region, we've contributed quite very little in terms of the emissions. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's 4% of the actual total greenhouse emissions have been coming from Africa. It's the other developed countries that have been producing these bad gases to our environment. But in the process, it is everybody, including us who have not emitted quite a lot, who are suffering. And because we are poor, the effects on us is serious. In other countries where there are floodings, they can't have some source of funding where they can move their people, even have helicopters to pick people up. In Malawi, that is not possible because we just don't have that extra resource. But at the same time, we are taking the little resource that we have to actually make people adapt to the situation. So instead of us using our money for development, because we have not yet developed, we're actually taking that resource going back to adaptation. So we are not even moving forward because the little that we have, we also have to look at the adaptation issue. And at the same time, it is making it difficult because we are now talking about having green economies. We are now talking about sustainability. And yet when we're talking of green economy, we're talking of sustainability, that is not cheap. That is expensive. We don't have that technology. We need somebody to come around and help us to transfer that technology to Africa, to us, especially the very poor countries. Because if we are saying we should not continue to produce more emissions, and yet the developed country is continuing, industry is continuing. For us, we are stuck here to say we need to go green, and yet it is expensive, and yet we also need to develop. So it is quite diverse and complicated problem as an African country, and indeed as a country as Malawi.
Okay, and do you have a message you would like to give to the negotiators here? What is it you would like out of COP18? If you could give me the message first of all in English, and then secondly in the language widely spoken by many people in Malawi.
Thank you very much. My message to the COP18 negotiators is to say that this problem of climate change is here, and some of us are feeling it now. So decisions need to be taken today. We should not prolong the problem. We should not, I would say, for example, if you're sick and you know you need an antibiotic, if a doctor is just going to give you painkillers, you're not going to get well. So we don't want to be getting painkillers. We want the antibiotic to actually cure our problem. So my plea to the negotiators is to say it is time for us to actually get the antibiotic. Otherwise, the more we get the painkiller, literally just postponing our death. So I don't want us to come out here, postpone our death. I want when I'm going back to my country, I can actually go to this vulnerable Malawian, especially vulnerable woman from Malawi, and tell her a word of hope to say, as much as we're facing these challenges, these climate change challenges, I have got a word of hope for you, because our development partners and other interested stakeholders are going to assist us with the proper funding that will help us to make sure that the Malawian citizen can adapt to the changes in our climate change.
Thank you. And also the language spoken widely in Malawi is, what's the language?
Chichewa.
Chichewa. So you can give me the message, the same message in Chichewa, please.
Zikomo kwambiri, ine ngati nduna ya zona za kusintha kwa nyengo, ndimafuna nene kuti meeting kumene ndabwera kunoko, choyambirira chofunikira kwambiri chimene ndimachiona ine, ndionena kuti azinzathu amene tikuyankhulana nawo nkhani ya kusintha kwa za nyengo, ndokuti akanatithandiza kutipatsa makobidi okwanira amene atithandiza kuti ife anthu amene akuvutika ku Malawi tizitha kuwathandiza, chifukwa kusintha kwa za nyengo kwapangitsa kuti anthu azikanika kukolola chimanga chokwanira, madzi akumakhala kutali, kuti akadule nkhuni kukutalika. Nditi mafuna kuti anthu amene apangitsa kuti zimezi zivute fuka kuti za nyengo zisinthe foti anzathu fo cha mafactory yawo amapanga produce mpweya umene oloyipa umene ukuononga za chilengedwe, ndipo ife amene tili kumayiko ovutika ndi amene tikupwetekeka fuka mvula isikugwa bwino, kukutentha kwambiri, kwina kukupanga mafloods. Nditi mafuna kuti atithandize kuti patsa ndalama zimene zingatithandize kuwathandiza anthu amene akuvutika. Zikomo kwambiri.